Hey everybody, welcome back once again to Retro Wrestling with Gene Jackson, and boy, do we have a great show in store for you this week. Got a couple of surprises for you. Number one, I've got a special guest host. You know him from the Continental Wrestling podcast that I do. Comes out every 2 weeks nowadays. They're on the Retro Wrestling Archive. And whenever we got this interview lined up, I was like, man, you've absolutely got to join me for this one. He knows all about this man's career. He's got questions. I've got questions. We're pumped up. So welcome to the show right now, my partner in crime, Mr. Robb Helt. Robb, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you, Gene? Very excited for today's show. How are you doing, man? It seems like things are going really good. I'm looking up in the top left corner, Jackson Media Creations. I saw a post out there that you posted that you've got some big things coming up, man.
Man, yeah, it's just every day things get better and better. We're doing a lot of upgrades with equipment here. You can already see an improvement in the look. We got a new background. We got logos. We got a lot of great stuff happening. And boy, I've got some things coming in this week. And when it gets here, we are sure enough going to be cooking with gas, as they say. And, me and you've been having a lot of fun doing this Continental show. And we've really gotten rolling. We've got a lot of good feedback on it. And you reached out to a man that we have been seeing on these first few episodes, Lord Humongous, down there in Continental in 1985. And of course, there were 2 or 3 different Lord Humongouses that people relate to. But the man, and for my money, the man who is the best worker of the bunch of Lord Humongous is the man. If you say Lord Humongous to me, he's who comes to mind. He's the guy that we're going to have with us here. I know you've been looking forward to this all week. I don't think we need to waste any more time, man. You ready to get the man on?
Let's get it on. I want to get it on. I had an opportunity to talk with him, and I'll tell you what, just the kindest, nicest man. We talked for a long time last week, and I absolutely love him. So let's hit it.
All right. We might be killing his gimmick. Lord Humongous might not like you telling everybody he's the kindest and nicest man, but let's see. Let's bring him on right now. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Jeff Van Camp. Jeff, how are you doing, sir?
Thank you, sir, so much for having me, Gene. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. We've been, like I say, going back. We picked up with the very first Continental show when they transferred over from Southeastern in the studio in Dothan to Continental. But you were there in the studio. You did some of the Southeastern stuff. But, man, I know we mostly do a Continental show, but that's why I chose to have you guys here on the Retro Wrestling Show, because we can kind of talk about anything. And, man, I want to go back to the very beginning because you got into wrestling. I do a weekly show with Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich, and I was talking with them on this week's episode. Yeah, you probably got some memories with Tommy, don't you?
Yeah, Tommy, Doug, Gilbert, everybody, yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking about, Tommy was talking about, he got in the business. He doesn't like to say 51. He'll admit to 50 and a half years ago. He got in the business. And we were talking about how different it was back then. If you got a notion that you wanted to break into the wrestling business, there wasn't a school on every corner. There wasn't an 800 number that you could call. You couldn't just order boots from High Spots, and now you're a wrestler. You had to find interesting ways to get in, but I don't think you didn't necessarily pursue it, right? Wrestling kind of fell into you. Tell us how that all kind of came about.
Yeah, it kind of fell on my lap. Actually, I watched, Memphis wrestling as a kid growing up, in 70s. And then I played college football. I was lucky enough to have a full scholarship for football for University of Louisville. And I played ball there until I tore my ACL out, my right knee. And they used to hire football players as T-shirt securities for all the concerts and wrestling at Louisville Gardens every Tuesday night. And we were lucky enough to, I was one of the guys I hired, and I got to know the wrestlers walking to and from the ring, hanging about backstage and just watching, talking to them. And that's how I got to know the guys.
As a defensive end, you were a defensive end at Louisville, right?
Defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle. So when you're playing defensive tackle at Louisville, how big are you when you're doing this walk into the ring? What are your stats at that point?
I'm just a gridiron grunt, as you will, and I was 6'5", 300 pounds, and and I just got to talk to the guys. They were really nice. They come upstairs, and one person in particular that kind of caught my attention, and he always talked to me, was Jerry Lawler. What a super, super nice guy.
So did you, and this is my last thing on this, but you're 6'5", you're 3 bills, but you could run a 40 in, what was your time 40?
I ran a 4.940.
Wow. That's flat whacking them at 6'5". Wow.
I was strong as a box too. I had a great weightlifting coach. I played football across the river from Louisville in Indiana, called New Albany High School, the Bulldogs. I had a great high school football coach. He taught me how to work out and lift weights. His name was Ron Wiglum. I'll never forget him. God rest his soul. He's a wonderful guy. Taught me how to pump iron, as you will. He played football for Tulsa.
Gene's going to be jumping into some of your early days in your career for wrestling. But I want to ask you, growing up in Indiana, football and basketball are kind of where it's at. You grew up in Indiana. So what was that like going to Louisville though? Because did you ever want to play for Indiana? I mean, with them just winning the national championship, stuff like that, did you ever want to do that?
Honestly, I wanted to, but I wasn't actually recruited by Indiana. I was recruited by Indiana State, Ball State, Purdue, U of K, U of L. But I signed Louisville.
And did you have aspirations of going to the NFL, or was that what you wanted to do?
No, sir, I did. I wanted to play NFL so bad. That was my childhood dream, but my knee injury kind of kept me out of the pro football area.
So in this era, around the time that you would have been working security and meeting these guys, as a football player, what was the opinion of football players and quote unquote real athletes as far as how they thought of professional wrestling and professional wrestlers at that time?
I didn't actually have an opinion. They were professional athletes, and that just intrigued me, and just talking to them, because everybody I met backstage and walking to and from the room, they were very, very down to earth. Very down to earth. To me, they was just a regular guy. And that's how we got to meet. Like my brother and I, he didn't play college football, but he got a job working the same company, Brantley Security, T-shirt security for the concerts and wrestling. And he got to meet the wrestlers as well backstage. And my brother and I really got to know Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler very well. Actually, there's a restaurant in Louisville called Kingfish, and I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a great place to eat.
Kenny Bolin will tell you all about it.
And we used to, after the wrestling show on Tuesday nights, Jerry Lawler and Austin I would always invite my brother and I to Kingfish, and they always buy us dinner. Nice. Yeah, it was so nice to him. And after dinner, my brother would have to go back home to Indiana, and he'd drive me back to my dorm at the University of Louisville. So it was just a great time.
So Jerry Lawler, being not only the main event wrestler, but being a part owner in the company, sees a guy with your size and your pedigree, and I'm sure he hears the turnstiles clicking and like, man, I'm sure he told Austin Idol, like, we need to get this guy in the ring. How soon after you met him did Lawler maybe kind of feel you out on if it's something you'd be interested in or something that you might be drawn to?
He probably talked to me a good year and a half before I finally decided to give it a shot. There was another guy on the football team too. He played offensive tackle. His name was Pete Bowen, and he was a T-shirt security guy as well. And God rest his soul. I miss him dearly. Jerry Lawler had invited Pete and I down to Memphis, Tennessee. I can't remember the date, but it was in the spring of '83. And he wanted us to go down and because Pete was graduating and I was only a sophomore. And I had some aspirations going pro, but my right knee was kind of messing me up. And back then, I don't want to talk bad, but there was actually no physical therapy for guys like myself. And there was trainers, of course, and there was surgeries, but there was no actual physical therapy. So I had no clue how to PT myself back into shape, into my side lateral movements. And now my speed went from 4.9 to 5.0 after my surgery. So I wasn't as fast, but I was still quick. but my side lateral movement was kind of hindering me.
Does a 1/10 of a second make that much difference, Jeff?
It does, because when you're doing the tryouts, it does make a big difference, especially, as big as I was, 5'9", 6'5", 300 pounds, doing a 5'0", 40. I mean, you got a lot of great other athletes running 4'9", 4'8", 4'7", and I had to be right there in that competition area, and I just didn't make the cut.
So Jerry Lawler and Austin Idol decide to do what? How do they approach you? Because as Gene said, Lawler's got dollar signs in his eyes. He sees a big raw-boned Indiana kid needs to make a little money.
Well, I didn't really actually, I didn't understand at that point. I wasn't business savvy. And he invited Pete and I down to Memphis on a Saturday morning. So we decided we'd drive down on Friday night and spend the night and get up and go to Mid-South Coliseum at 9 o'clock Saturday morning. I'll never forget the time. And Jerry said he would meet us there and teach us how to wrestle. So at the last minute, going down there on Friday night, Pete decided that he didn't want to do it. He chickened out and didn't go. So my brother and I went. So my brother and I drove to Memphis, spent the night. Next morning, we showed up at Mid-South Coliseum, and the ring was already set up. And Mid-South, I don't know if you've ever been there or not, was huge. Big.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the ring was right in the middle. And my brother and I walked in, and he said, go get changed. Here's the locker room, and I'll meet you out here in a few minutes. And sure enough, a few minutes later, my brother and I got changed, and we went back out there. And Jerry said, "Okay, let's learn the trade." And I got up in the ring with Jerry. I don't know, maybe the first time for about an hour, showing me how to take a fall, how to do a you name it, everything hitting the rope. The thing about it is with those ropes, they're not as easy as you think, because you really have to lock your arm over the rope. If you don't, you'll fall right through the ring, right to the floor. And there's a lot of tricks that you don't know about and what really helped me out tremendously is I took judo in college as a class. You believe that? And it taught you how to fall, slapping your hand. And it just, that really helped me out a lot. When Jerry was picking me up, he body slammed me, and doing anything he can. I wasn't getting hurt, and I was loving it. And I'd take a breather, and then he'd go right in with my brother. And then after about 2-3 hours of being in the ring with Jerry, he had everything ready to go. And he looked at me and goes, "Now, are you ready to be a professional wrestler?" I looked at him. I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." Man, he looked at my brother, and my brother said, "No, it's not for me." Because at the time, because you got to wear tights, you got shorts, and you got the audience is, thousands of people looking at you. And he said he didn't want to do that. He got nervous. So he chickened out. And I said, "Not me. I mean, I play in college football. I was used to the crowds. I just kind of, did that locking mechanism and turned them off." So I was ready. And he gave me a booking sheet with my name on the dates and times and towns I was supposed to be in. I said, "Okay, now you're a professional wrestler."
Wow.
That is amazing. I mean, that judo thing is a big leg up, because that learning how to bump is like everybody's biggest problem. So if you already have a concept of that, it definitely speeds things up. But now, before you step between those ropes that day, because this is, like I said, this is still 83, or are we into 84 yet?
No, 83.
We're in 83. They're really protecting the business. There aren't dirt sheets available. People aren't really aware of all the smart, so to speak. So what perception of exactly what was going on between those ropes did you have before you stepped up in there with Lawler that day and got that training?
I was totally green. I had no clue. And Jerry, he pretty much let me be what I wanted to be in each town I worked with. And thank God, I'm going to tell you, he put me with an individual that was probably one of the best teachers that I had, and that was Buddy Landell. And we worked from North Mississippi to Tennessee to Kentucky to Indiana.
When you started out in Memphis, that's when you were in 83. This is well before Humongous. You're just wearing, if I look at some of the old videos, you're wearing football pants. Is that correct? Those were your tights. You were wearing football. Were they playing the football gimmick for you?
Yeah, I was Jeff Van Camp, the football player. I played, I had my jersey number 57 and some football pants I just cut off, and where the thigh pads going, I use those as my rest. I didn't have a pair of boots. All I had was my football pants and my jersey and a pair of tennis shoes.
Did the University of Louisville care?
You know what? They never really said anything. I guess one time they thought it was pretty because I was giving them free publicity too everywhere I went. To Louisville. So they never really said anything to me about that. Because I played ball for them. So what? I don't think they should be upset about it.
You're wrestling at the same time as you're playing ball, Jeff. You're working in the business at the same time as you are still in college, or had you already graduated?
Once I decided to be a wrestler, I went ahead and I decided to leave college football. So in the spring of '83, after spring ball, I left University of Louisville and was in professional wrestling.
Buddy Landale, I only met him a couple of times, but man, I love that guy. He's one of the most entertaining people. So anytime people can tell me what a great time they had with Buddy Landale and how much they helped him, it warms my heart. So that's really cool to hear how big of a help he was in your early career like that.
He was wonderful. He taught me he wanted me to stay out there because I never had a time limit on my matches. So Buddy always made sure that he stayed a little bit extra time in the ring, and I was still green. So even though we were working, we had an audience, but we were doing what we were supposed to do in the ring, and I was learning. And he finally got with me after, I can't remember what was that, Kentucky or somewhere. He said, Jeff, I got a surprise for you. He said, Saturday night we're in Nashville, Tennessee at the fairgrounds, and I want to give you something. I'll never forget it. I went backstage, and he was a heel, I was a babyface, and the referee come walking over with a box, and they were red, white, and blue wrestling boots. Matched my football outfit.
Nice.
I wish I had them to this day. I gave them to somebody that helped them out to start. I can't remember whom gave them to them, and they never contacted me back again. But Buddy Landale was my first pair of wrestling boots.
I bet those boots came from Bill Ash.
I'm sure they did, without a doubt, because I got my Humongous boots from his dad, his parents' shop in Arkansas.
Yep.
And that's a big deal too, because it's not like you can go to the mall and buy wrestling boots.
Oh no,
so that's a whole ordeal just to figure out where to get your wrestling boots. So for somebody to just be like, "Hey, got you some wrestling boots. Here you go." That's a big thing.
Yeah, in Austin, I didn't want to have a regular pair of boots like what Buddy gave me just to the calf. I wanted something like Austin said, Jeff, you got to get a pair of boots that go over your calf, just short of your knees. You got to get them really big. The only thing is, I didn't realize those things were a pain in the butt to lace up every night.
Yeah, that's true. How was Austin Idol outside, just as a person? What was your dealings with him?
You know what? Austin was a wonderful, wonderful human being. His wife, Brenda, they had a little boy named Joshua. What a great guy. After I left Memphis, I went to Chicago area. And of course, back then we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
And I was in Chicago and I always called my mom, dad, maybe once or twice a week to see how everything's going, check in at home. And one time I called my mom and she said, Jeff, we got a piece of paper? I said, yeah. He says, cool, you need to call Austin Idol right away. I said, everything okay? She says, yeah, but he's got something he won't give you anyway. You got to call him right away. It's important. I said, yes, Mom, right away. So I called him up and he was in Pensacola, Florida, working for Ron Fuller. And he said there's this gimmick that he said it'd be perfect for me, Jerry Lawler, and he had talked about it. There was a guy named Mike Stark who gave up this gimmick named Lord Humongous, and we think you would be the best thing, sliced bread, to have it.
But before that, you're super green. You go to Dick the Bruiser's territory.
Yes.
Which was based out of Indianapolis or Chicago, wherever that whole territory was running. And you end up as a tag team champion in this territory with Dick the Bruiser.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, how many
matches do you think you had at the point you and Dick the Bruiser become tag team champions?
I wrestled spring of '83 till maybe the fall of '83. Then I left. I don't know if you remember a guy named Spike Huber.
Absolutely.
He was related to Dick the Bruiser. I think he was married to one of his daughters. And he had told me, he said, Jeff, Dick would love you. You played college football. He played pro in college, and he would love you to death. here's his phone number and you need to call him. Because Jerry, at the time, Jerry Lawler had told me, he said, Jeff, that's pretty much all I can do for you right now. You're going to have to go to another territory or do what you got to do, but it's time for you to leave. And I said, I understand. I mean, I'm green, I'm learning, but, he's got to make money too. He just can't pay me. So Spike Huber gave me the number. I called Dick the Bruiser and said, Jeff, I'm having a show, let's say this Saturday night in Indianapolis. I forget where it was at now, older building. But King Kong Bundy was there, Jimmy Valiant, Abdullah the Butcher, you name it, Bobo Brazil, all those great talent. I mean, it was amazing. Superstars of wrestling back in the day. And I was lucky enough to get in there and Redbone and oh my gosh, all those guys. I came along in a time where I fell into luckiness. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, people were wonderful to me, and I feel so lucky, and I'm humbled by people like yourself, Gene, and everybody just to remember me, and I'm very thankful for that.
Well, man, we're honored to get to talk to you and get to hear these kind of stories because we grew up watching it and reading about it and everything. You hear it straight from somebody who lived it and done all the things that you got to do. It's pretty amazing because Dick the Bruiser was a big deal. Like, so here you are, you just got to start in the business. You're working with the king, literally the king in Memphis, Jerry Lawler. Yep. And then you go to Indianapolis and boom, you're on top with Dick the Bruiser, absolute legend. And all those names you just listed. In that day and time, were the veterans eager to teach and bring guys like you along as you're getting started out and try to bring you up to their level?
Some of them were. I'm going to tell you, I came along in time with Jerry Lawler. Remember, he was having the heck of a time with Andy Kaufman. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was right there during that period of time with Andy Kaufman. I met Andy Kaufman. What a great guy, Jerry. They had a great run together. And I remember I pulled up. It was Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and I was driving to Memphis, and I was having car problems, and I pulled into a barbecue restaurant, and I pulled up, and sure enough, Andy Kaufman and his wife or girlfriend at the time was sitting down eating, and he looked at me. He recognized who I was because I was on some of the shows. Right. He said, "Come on over here, Jeff, and sit down and eat with us." I said, "Okay." So
wow.
So I went over and sit down and ate with Andy Kaufman, had dinner with him.
Oh my God. How many people can say that? How many people can say that they've done that?
I was honored. I mean, he you know what? He was so down to earth. He just having a blast.
That's what you always hear is that he was he was doing this not for money, not for fame, but he already had those things. This was fun for him. This was his weekend getaway.
Yeah, it was fun for him, and it was just amazing to sit. And I wish we didn't have cell phones and photographs and pictures and cameras back then. I would give anything to go back in time and take a picture of us eating dinner together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Even with
you think of all the missed opportunities, man. If you'd have had camera, because it was a reason you brought a camera with you for a specific purpose. You didn't have a phone everywhere you went that always had a camera. And you think of all the people you cross paths with, what you would give to have photos now to be able to show, like, hey, look at this, Yeah,
just eating dinner with Jerry and Austin at the Kingfisher. You just didn't think about it because we didn't have that technology back then.
So you're in Indianapolis and you're with Dick the Bruiser, you go on a run there, and then you get that call from Austin Idol.
Yeah, it was probably right after Christmas, 1st of 84, probably February, March is when I got a call from Austin.
And and he said that Lawler's got this gimmick he wants to put on you. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, he actually got a gimmick he wanted to put on me. He's Lord Humongous. And then also I said, well, where do I go? What do I do? Come to Pensacola, Florida. It's in the summer of 84. And we'll you stay at my house because he'll be on the road. He trusted me because he stayed at my house with my mom and dad. So he trusted me. And I stayed at his house for about 2 weeks before I actually was in because we had to get my outfit made.
Right.
And to get everything ordered. And then we went to the gym all the time, and told me how I needed to be with Humongous being a monster. He said, whatever you do, don't ever take off your mask, because if you do, the mystique of Humongous would be dead. I'll never forget that.
What about, did you, when he's working with you on what you're doing, you're down in Florida working with him. How are you making money at this point? How are you even supporting yourself at this point? Because if you've got a couple weeks to get your stuff made,
right. I saved up some money from Addictive Bruiser area, and it was only a couple of weeks. And I didn't have to pay rent, didn't have to pay a hotel, nothing. And then Ron Fuller, I mean, God bless us. I think my first night, because I told him at that period of time I was getting kind of hard up for some money, for cash. And I'm going to tell you a little quick story, if you don't mind. What really helped me out a lot was during University of Louisville days. My buddy and I, God rest his soul, he was an offensive guard named Kelly Sticker. We was roommates together at the Miller dormitories. And one night, I can't remember what year it was, 81, I think, the sewers of Louisville blew up. All the sewer systems around University of Louisville blew up, and we thought we were getting bombed. So what happened was a dog food company right there by University of Louisville was dumping chemicals into the sewer systems.
Oh.
And one night somebody had lit a cigarette and it went down into the sewer system and ignited the chemicals.
Like the movie Christmas Vacation.
So, I mean, this is honest goodness true. So what happened was we all had to put in, I guess, our request of what we had lost, refrigerator, clothes, wherever we lost. We put in a claim with the company who blew up the sewer system. They had to pay everybody a lump sum of money, and I ended up getting it wasn't very much, $1,000. I'll never get it. So that $1,000 back in 83, 84 was a lot of money, and that helped sustain us, because I had been eating some peanut butter jelly sandwiches for a while.
It's hard to how do you keep a 6'5", 300-pound frame with peanut
butter and jelly?
Eating a lot of peanut butter. So let me tell you, when I got that check and cashed it, I went right out and got me a big old steak dinner.
There you go. There you go. So as you guys are preparing that, you're getting your gear together. Had you seen the Road Warrior movie that the character was based on, to kind of have that in your head?
Actually, I didn't. I understood it. I saw it with Mad Max. But I want to give you a little history with that. But the football coach at New Albany, Indiana, was named Ron Wiglum, and he was a big guy. He was shorter than I was, but he was a big guy. He taught me how to work out. Anyway, I introduced him to Jerry Lawler, and Jerry Lawler thought, what a great gimmick. He said, Jeff, I got a gimmick that I want to put you and your football coach in, named the Road Warriors.
So this is before before Hawk and Animal.
Yes, this is before Hawk and Animal. Without a doubt, it was he wanted me and Ron Wiglum to be the Road Warriors.
Wow. What was Ron's thought on that?
Well, he actually, at first, he was a school teacher, football coach, PE, and he thought it was a great idea until it came time to do it. And then he backed out. And
you just can't find somebody to jump into this with you, can you, Jeff?
No, it was amazing. I had two people back out on me, and my brother did last minute. So it's 3 people, 3 times the charm.
Right.
Okay, so Lord Humongous is going to be single. You're going solo from here on.
Yep, I'm going single from now on. That's it.
How did you feel about going under I know you'd been Jeff Van Camp football player. At any point, had you wrestled in a mask? Did you have any idea how that was going to be? Were you looking forward to it, or were you apprehensive?
I was looking forward to it, but apprehensive at the same time. And the reason why, because I didn't know how hard it would be to breathe. And what it is everybody thought I shaved my head to make it look or appear that I was bald headed, because I wanted to do as much as I possibly could to, I guess, disguise my my looks. So I got me a pair of pantyhose. I cut out 2 eye holes and a little mouth hole, and I put what's that? It's a hardener to go around it. That way they'd stay instead of ripping all the time.
And a glue or something.
Yes, and I put that stocking over my head before I put the hockey mask on, and made it distort my face a little bit. My hair made me look bald, and then I put the hockey mask on. It was tough sometimes, but I got used to it because you worked 7 days a week and every single night. So you end up getting used to it.
Right. Because that's the thing, like, Austin told you keep the mask on. Like when you're 6'9", when you're the size that you are, you can't just pop that mask off and walk out the front door with everybody. I mean,
No, sir.
maybe if you're one of the nightmares, you might can blend in the crowd, but Jeff Van Camp's not blending into the crowd.
Yeah, I can do this. So I wear Austin had suggested me like, hangman's noose, hangman's hood, the black hood. So what I did was I made up a black hangman's hood, put some tape around it, around my eyes and stuff like that. And then that's what I wore walking to and from the buildings.
Who made your, so when Humongous starts getting into the gimmick and you've got the leather and all that, was that Adrian that made that stuff for you, or where did you guys go to get that done?
There was Adrian. Well, I didn't know Adrian at that time, but we went to a seamstress right there in Pensacola, and we had to get this thing done pretty quickly. It was an Army, little
like
Kwanzaa hut. It was right off of 9th Avenue by Cervantes. We went in there and bought all the material, and we went to a seamstress, and they put it together within about a week with the stones and everything. And then that next year for Christmas at 84, I went back home to New Albany, and my mother-in-law at the time made me another Humongous outfit because I needed 2 of them because one was getting kind of rank, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right.
So I had 2 Humongous outfits.
So you're in Memphis at this point. They decide to create the character. You're in Memphis, and you start working Memphis in 84 on a full-time basis, correct?
Well, 83 full-time basis.
Okay, so you're still there at this point. Well, but you went 83, and then you went back to Dick the Bruiser.
84 with Dick the Bruiser. And then back to 84 in the summer of 84, I went to Continental with Ron Fuller.
Okay, so that's where you went into Southeast at that point because it was Southeast. Take it from there, Gene, because that's your baby on Southeast.
Yeah, a couple more quick questions about getting into the gimmick. One of the things, you use the theme song "War Machine" by Kiss, which is just like one of the toughest. Like when I was a kid, I absolutely loved that. So I thought that was just the toughest, most just badass song in the world. Like you see a 6'9" dude in a hockey mask coming to War Machine, it's fixing to be bad for somebody. Did you pick that out at Fuller? Like who come up with that?
It was Austin and I picked that out. We thought we went through hundreds of songs. We thought Kiss, War Machine, that was perfect. That had my name on it.
It absolutely set the tone. When that music, I can remember being at shows because I grew up North Mississippi, so I got to go to Columbus and some of the towns in that area. And as soon as you heard the first couple of guitar licks, you're like, "Oh, here he comes!" And you would see the crowd. If they were meandering around, they would get to their seat to see who was about to be destroyed. Did anyone ever? So when you were a heel, did anyone ever make the mistake as you're coming down the aisle and reach and try to grab the mask or anything like that off your head? I mean, surely not, but.
No, I don't remember any time at any given period of time that somebody actually tried to reach for my hockey mask going to and from the ring. Now, coming to and from the building, I didn't have my hockey mask on. I had to stay away from people because they could have ripped the hood off my head real fast. And I always want duffel bag and I had my hand on my hood. That way it wouldn't come off. So I was aware of that and had a lot of people ask me to pay me money to take the hood off. And I just kind of looked at it and just kept on walking.
So you had been, you had been up in Memphis and did the loop up there for a while, and you went up to Indianapolis. How did you like the loop in Southeastern and the road trips in Southeastern compared to Memphis and the Indianapolis territory prior?
You know what? Ron Fuller's territory was probably the best. It was everybody lived in Pensacola. We lived out in Gulf Breeze. And it was great trips. Every Monday you was in Birmingham, and Sunday night you was back in Pensacola at the auditorium. Tuesday was in Montgomery. Wednesday is spot show. Thursday spot show. Friday, Thursday's Montgomery, I believe, and then spot show on Friday, and then back wherever on Saturday. Dothan on Saturday, and TV Saturday night, and then Birmingham. It and you could drive back and forth to Pensacola with no problem. That was the best territory in the whole world.
You still
Good money, and great guys.
You still live in Escambia County, correct?
No, actually, I live in South Florida now. I'm in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. But is that what got you to want to live in Florida now with your family? Because you were in Pensacola and it's like, this is where I need to be. Indiana, I'm done.
Yeah, bro, pretty much. I moved to Pensacola in '84. And then after my kids were grown, and my oldest boy played football for Florida Atlantic University, and he met a young lady. I became a grandpa. And my youngest son is now a captain in the Air Force up in Eglin Air Force Base in Navarre. But at the time, I wanted to be close to my grandkids, and I moved down to South Florida to be close to my son and his family. And then I had got divorced 83, 84, 13 and 14, and I met me a beautiful woman that we got married and have been together now 9 years.
So congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
We'll return after these messages.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
Tired of the same boring wrestling podcast? Need something with attitude, chaos, and maybe just a little cussing? That's STSpod.club, and we got it all covered. We've got wrestling weirdness with WTF News Desk, 5-minute time limit, and the Southern fried brain of me, BT, steering the whole ship. We also have rolling into Mempho every week about the current Memphis wrestling. Interviews, hot takes, and wrestling outrageousness so wild it might get you banned in 12 states. That's right, it's SDSpod.club, or search all podcast catchers for Shooting the Shiznit, where wrestling podcasts grow chest hair. Not sure what that meant. Love my mama.
So you're down there, you're working these trips in Southeastern, which is going to become Continental, and I promise we're on our way there. As a silent monster, right? That's exactly what Humongous is. You are completely 100% silent.
Yes. I spoke with my ass.
How do you figure out how to use body language to get yourself over? Because you can't say a word, and obviously you're very well spoken.
Well,
And you can't use your face because you've got a hockey mask covered.
The only thing I did, if you listen to a lot of different people, I talk with my eyes. And I open them up and or I'd shake my fist at somebody, or sit there with my arms crossed. That's how I spoke with people, how I was getting my point across.
And at this point, you're working for Ron Fuller. I want you to tell us about that dynamic of, we're covering Continental. We've talked about the fact that Ron is involved. Robert's still kind of an owner, whatever's going on with the two of them. You've got the Armstrongs heavily involved. This is a very tight, you got Jimmy Golden. This is a very tight-knit group of people. You're an outsider coming in. How is it down there? Kind of give me the vibe of 1984.
I was very lucky. Ron Fuller treated me like family. Bob Armstrong, what a great guy. I mean, he would always have the biggest, I guess, locker room, like in Birmingham, all the way top of the steps. And every once in a while, he said, "Hey Jeff, you need to come up here and talk to me real quick." So I'll come here, and he'd give me some pointers. But the family, we lived in Gulf Breeze, and that's where Bob and Gail and all their kids were, except Brad was out wrestling somewhere, and Scott and Steve. And I just got I was pretty much the same age as Scott and Steve, and we'd go fishing together on our days off. They had a boat. They would tell you, it's kind of funny. They got I guess a bass tracker. We went down to Yellow River one time and they forgot to put the plug in. The boat sank.
Oh, oh man.
So we were steady trying to pull the boat out of the water. And it was a good time. You can't take those times back. It was wonderful.
Wow. If only fans could have pictured Lord Humongous out there fishing with the Armstrongs, they wouldn't believe it. So who was the first person? You get to Southeastern there. Who was one of the first people that you got, locked into an angle with and got to kind of work with regularly?
I think one of the best. Oh my! One of the was Pork Chop Cash, and I'm trying to remember. I can't. I'm sorry. He was the Russian Boris Zirkov. Remember him?
Yeah.
Boris.
Yes, sir.
We worked a little bit with him, and he was a great guy too. I used to travel with that young man. He loved Whataburger. Every Whataburger he saw, we had to stop and get himself a burger. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's awesome. We're big fans of Pork Chop Cash here, so that's cool that you. Any fun stories about Pork Chop or how it was working with him?
Oh, Pork Chop. He was, man. If you touched him too hard, he would yell out, "Potato, potato, potato." He said,
Wow.
"Loosen up, kid. Loosen up, kid."
Did you mind people working snug with you, working stiff with you, Jeff? Because you're such a big guy and you've already taken so many hits through your years of football. Was it a big deal if they laid one in?
No, I didn't mind at all. When Ric Flair hit me, did those chops on the chest, it didn't bother me one bit.
Let's talk about that. You just opened a can of worms right there. You're okay. It has been said throughout all of our lives, Gene and I, that Ric Flair could have a match with a broom because he was that good as the ring general.
That is true.
You're still less than 2 years in the business. You're greener than grass, and you're working with Flair.
Yes.
Take me through that. What does he do in the ring? How do you get through that?
Ron Fuller.
And are you aware of the gravity of who you're wrestling? Like, are you aware?
I knew he was a champ because Arn Anderson they were really good friends. And then prior to him working with me, he worked with several other guys in Continental and Southeastern. So I got to meet him and know him. And he was down to earth guy. I work out with him, and he loved to drink some beer. And anyway, they wanted to have a big show and earn a lot of money. So Ron came to me and Bob Armstrong, "Jeff, we're going to put you with Flair because we think we're going to draw a big crowd." That was in Birmingham and in Montgomery. He said, "Only thing is, because you're used to doing small matches, lasted maybe 15 to 20, 25 minutes max."
Yeah.
They said, "Jeff, be prepared. You ain't going to get out of that ring less than an hour." I went, "Oh my God, you're kidding me." I'm gonna be sweating my butt off in this hockey mask for an hour. I'm gonna die.
Oh my gosh.
Does Flair just talk you through this whole thing? Because obviously you didn't talk about the match beforehand. Back then, you guys weren't even in the same dressing rooms.
No, we was a long way away. No, he let me do what I wanted to do, and that's why Bob kind of got with me. He said, "Jeff, this is what things that he's going to want to do, and just go with it. Just go with the flow. Listen to him, and just go with it." So that's okay. I said, as long as he does what I do, because I got to get myself over too.
That's right. Because you're going to be here next week when he goes on to the next territory.
That's it. So, I mean, and beauty about it was that night in Birmingham, I actually won the belt from him, and the place went nuts.
Do you have pictures? Did anybody take pictures of you like they did with Landell? Landell used to famously show that picture of him with the belt.
All I have is a picture of me body slamming Flair.
That's awesome.
That's good enough,
That's
man.
good enough, dude. That's good enough. You've been in the ring with him.
Yep.
That's cool.
What a great talent.
Yeah.
He most definitely was a champ. That's for sure.
A lot of, and I'm certainly not asking for dollar amounts or anything here, but people have always said that Ron Fuller was a very fair guy when it came to payoffs, that he paid people what they're worth. Did you find him to be of the promoters you worked for? Was he one of the better payoff guys? Did you feel that you did well there?
He did well. I'm not going to tell you. There was a few times, maybe a month or so, it was kind of slim. So he paid a minimum, but it was still, $200-300 a night. And that's not bad for, 7 days a week. You get one check a week, and you just had to learn to share your money, but spare it. But he was always fair to me, no matter what. He was great. He was good people, good friend, and I can't say nothing bad about the young man. He was wonderful, wonderful person. Treated me fair.
Now, me and Rob have been pondering something here on the show, and where we're at, just a few weeks into the Continental stage of things. You hear Austin Idol come out, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, he was the most over baby face in the territory." But then you hear both Armstrong come out, and I was there live in some shows and heard both reactions. In your mind, you were there, you worked them both. Who was the bigger main event babyface star in Continental? Was it Bullet Bob Armstrong, or was it the Universal Heartthrob Austin Idol?
Honestly, I think there was a shared position. Austin was very he was baby faced all the time, because I used to travel with Austin. He had that green ball. We traveled everywhere together. And even though I was a heel, he's a baby face, he would drop me off, say, a block away from the venue, like in Birmingham, and we'd find some woods or something across the street, and he'd drop me off, and I'd wait a few minutes, and he would drive over, then I'd walk across the street, and people never knew any different. Wow. But I think Bob had his own crowd, and so did Austin. They were both on the same level, I believe, with the babyface gimmick.
It was a different vibe to me. Like, Austin Idol had this superstar feel where it felt like, as a fan, I'm speaking as a kid sitting out in the crowd, I was like, wow, that's Austin Idol. Where Bob Armstrong felt like the guy that might come to your house and know your dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he felt like a big deal. He felt like a star, but you felt, I don't know, Austin Idol felt like he's this almost like a movie star type person. Like, you were kind of in awe of him. We're just like Bullet's like, that's our guy right there, man.
I guess, I was on a different level. I didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
Because I knew them, both of them personally, and how they treated me. And I just respected both of them, no matter what,
Let me ask a question about, so we're 85 now. We've gone through 84. We're 85 now. And Continental is fixing to come in because Southeastern is going to roll into Continental. But before that, you had a massive storyline with Ron Fuller where he turned babyface because he couldn't handle Humongous's violence anymore.
It's the angle. Again, the territory is a little slim. It was getting the people weren't showing up as much, and so he had this all amazing gimmicks. Said, Jeff, I'm going to turn you babyface, and I'm going to let you do what you got to do with me on TV. And Dothan that night at the Farm Center, we're going to let you rock and roll. And let me tell you something, that place was packed. They couldn't wait for me to beat the hell out of Ron Fuller. People were hanging off the rafters just to see him get beat up. It was amazing.
And what is the crowd reaction when you walk out in these arenas, whether they're spot shows or whether it's at the Boutwell or whatever? How is the crowd reacting to you? Because remember, with Brody in Japan and even with Brody in the US, they would flee, they would get away, the marks would run. How was it with you? Did you have that ability?
Yes, I mean, it was amazing. But at the same time, I'll never forget, we went to Florence, Alabama, and you know where that's at, of northern Alabama. And even though I was a heel, all the kids in that, they responded like crazy. Almost every kid in the auditorium had a hockey mask on. So even though I was a heel, I was over. You know what I'm saying? They were scared to death of me, but they loved me. It was a love-hate relationship or something. It was amazing.
So at some point, Southeastern decides that, hey, Vince McMahon is going on his run of picking people up from territories. This was right after this, WrestleMania had happened. Things are going on, and they're going to make a transition to Continental. I have one last question about this before I want to kick it to Gene for Continental. Sure. Did Vince McMahon or any of his people reach out to you at that point? Because they're cherry picking territories. And I would have to imagine that the two people in this industry that would look at Jeff Van Camp and say, I want that guy, is Vince McMahon and Bill Watts, because you were a body guy at that time. As Arn Anderson likes to say, you were a big guy. So did they ever contact you?
Oh, the two people contacted me was Bill Watts and the Crockett promotion out of North Carolina.
And you decide, what did Crockett ask? What did Crockett want to do?
The same gimmick, same area, same Bill Dundee. I believe he was in Crockett, and he was talking to me. He was a great guy. I came this close to coming to Crockett, but then Bill Watts contacted me, gave me a plane ticket from Pensacola to Shreveport, and told me who I'll be working with. I had no clue who most of these guys were, but just from talking like Jerry Stubbs and Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake,
and we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
So anyway,
right after Continental, because you only had a very small run once they went from Southeast to Continental. Gene, that is your wheelhouse, and that is your heyday over in Continental. Gene grew up watching this on Saturdays where he lived in Mississippi. So, Gene, it's Continental time.
So you just said a name. Did you work with or around Jerry Stubbs during your time in Continental?
Yes.
What a great guy.
Him and his wife, Maureen, they lived in Gulf Breeze as well. Great people.
And they were he was one of those guys who seemed to get, you were talking about a few minutes ago, you're living in Pensacola, you're on the beach, you're in your bed almost every night, your own bed back home. And Jerry's one of them guys that seemed like he got there, and once he got there and lived a little bit of that, you couldn't drag him out of there. He pretty much homesteaded Continental from then on. It's hard to blame him.
Well, he lived in Gulf Breeze as well. He had a nice home, pool, and Jerry, him and Arm were tag partners for a long time, and they were just wonderful people. They were good friends of mine. It's amazing. When I first came to Southeastern, we all stayed at the Holiday Inn, and I decided to go down to the area and have some breakfast one morning. And it's funny, Jerry and Arn said they'd never, ever in the whole time they were there went to breakfast that morning. They showed up for breakfast. They looked at me and said, "Damn, who's that big guy over there?" And we got this new kid, Humongous, but I don't know if it's him or not because nobody knew who I was. So I showed up in the locker room that night, and sure enough, they said, "Damn, you're the guy eating breakfast with us." I said, "Yep."
So I've been lucky enough to interview quite a few of my favorite Continental guys over the years. I'm excited that I'm adding another one this week. But I've got a chance to talk to Wendell Cooley, Nightmare Eddie Davis, Jerry Stubbs, Dirty White Boy, all these different guys. But Wendell Cooley and Eddie Davis, perhaps most famously, talked about, and since we're here right now, babyface Lord Humongous in Continental in 1985, they talked a lot about picture money. Danny Davis famously bought an IROC Z Camaro with picture money. When you turned babyface, were you racking it up as Lord Humongous? Is that something that you took advantage of, or no?
I did not take advantage of it. I missed out on a lot of opportunity. I at that period of time, by myself, I didn't know about a lot of gimmicks.
Right.
And then Austin finally took me off to the side and said, "Jeff, you need to start selling some gimmicks, T-shirts." And so he took me to this place in Gulf Breeze called Sal's T-shirt factory, and I started making up T-shirts and pictures, and that's how I started making some money. But I didn't know anything about it. Now, right before I left WWA with Victor Bruiser, they had made up some T-shirts and koozies and things like that with Jeff Van Camp's name and logo on it. I didn't get to have any of that stuff because I left the area before they started selling it. So I don't know what they end up doing all day. Probably end up throwing it away. But anyway, now I'm going to like Captain's Corner. But I'm going to plug him real quick. April 11th, 10th, 11th in Tampa, Florida. I'm going to Grapicon. And I'm going to sell a lot of swag there. T-shirts, hats, you name it, pictures.
You have hockey masks too, right?
hockey mask, because he had actually. I've been to several locations. You know, if I go get an invite to Texas, Louisiana, I've been to Charlotte, North Carolina, and up in New York and Minnesota and Wisconsin, selling, just being remembered as Humongous. You know, I'm just amazed that I'm very humbled that people remember who I am and are willing to buy my swag. So I appreciate that.
Captain Nick's a friend. He's a great guy. And you know, you got to be careful out there doing that circuit because there's a few carny guys that'll do you wrong. But, man, Captain Nick, he's one of the best ones out there doing. I'm glad you're hooked up with him because you can't go wrong with him. You can see all this wrestling swag behind me here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get with you off the air and see about buying a signed hockey mask to add to my collection.
Okay. That sounds good.
He has a Jerry Lawler crown. He has a signed Jerry Lawler crown.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. I get to see Jerry next month. He's going to be at the GrappaCon. Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler are going to be there. I can't. That's going to be a great reunion. I have to give him a big hug.
Can I ask something here real quick? Did you?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, these fleeting questions just come into my mind. So, how long does it take you to pick up the nomenclature, the vernacular in the wrestling business, all the kayfabe, and because I heard Gene mention carny. All the carny terms, how long did that take you to learn?
Well, if you're doing it 7 days a week, you get to learn it pretty quick, you know.
Up and down the road in the car?
Oh, my gosh, yes. If you don't, it's like speaking Spanish. You don't know what they're saying, so you better pick it up real quick.
Right.
So, which did you like better as you? Because I have to think that there's difficulties to being a heel Humongous. There's difficulties to being a babyface Humongous. Which did you prefer, and what were your reasonings?
Being a heel was totally different. You know, even in Pensacola, it took me driving home from Pensacola Auditorium. It took me about 45 minutes to an hour to drive home to Gulf Breeze because I couldn't just go home the normal route because people follow me.
Right.
So I had to go up Interstate I-110 to Interstate 10 and all the way go eastbound till I hit Highway 87 and turn down 87 to go all the way back down to Highway 98. And there at the little area by a bridge, I got shot at once. Ran up the road. So I just couldn't go home right away. I literally had to, because I didn't want these people to know where I lived.
These people believe this shit's real.
Oh yeah, well I got stabbed in Jackson, Mississippi by a fan.
Gee, tell that story.
I was in it was remember John Nord the Barbarian?
Nord the Barbarian, yeah.
Well, John Nord and Jake the Snake was working the main event, and I had just got done working, and I was supposed to run in at the last minute when Jake was getting the better of Nord because Watts wanted to put me and Nord together as a Barbarian Humongous like the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
So at one of the last minutes, I ran into the ring on cue, got in the ring, gave Jake a big old knot on my hockey mask, and he went down. Of course, he's bleeding, and he was selling it. Man, that man, he could sell. And he sold it so good. The place was packed. It was in the rafters at the Jackson, Mississippi Fairgrounds. I'll never forget it. And they had a fair going on, and people, it was unbelievable how many people. Anyway, they crowded the ring. They charged the ring. They wanted to kill me so bad.
God.
And the people, and we had a police escort and everything, and they literally had to walk. They put Jake on a stretcher out of the ring, and they had to literally walk me and Barbarian from the ring to the dressing room with those steel barricades with a police escort. And as I was walking back to the ring, somebody reached out, who I don't even know, and stabbed me in the right hand.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see it. Huh?
Oh, wow. Okay. Dang.
Right there. Still got the scar right there by my thumb.
Wow.
I got stabbed. And I had to get some stitches. So what I did was I was in Jackson, and I couldn't go to Jackson Hospital because everybody was following me. So I was actually driving with remember Dr. Death, Steve Williams?
Absolutely.
Of course. Yes, sir.
Steve and I used to travel together, and Steve had that big old van, and I ran out there and stayed in his van for a while till he got finished. And then we drove to Vicksburg. on our way back to Shreveport. We drove from Jackson to Vicksburg, stopped off at a hospital there, and got sewed up.
Wow.
Let me just pop in and get this hand done. How'd you injure yourself? Well, fuck, man. I'm walking to the ring, and I got this big old hockey mask on, and somebody just stabs me. Holy shit!
You know how it is, man. These fans get mad. You get stabbed. That's how it is. It's funny now because like most people can't watch today's wrestling without rolling their eyes at least 10 times at the silliness of it all. And I don't think modern fans can even grasp the concept that there was a time not that long ago in your day that people took it so serious. We're out here stabbing people. We're chasing people to the state line. Like, what are you going to do when you catch Lord Humongous on the side of the highway? How do you think that's going to go for you?
That's and it's like everybody was telling me, Jeff, you're over when you get stabbed by a fan.
Yeah, that's that weird wrestling business mentality. It's like pat you on the back, like you did it, man. Good job.
You made it. You made it.
It's like a rite of passage to get stabbed.
Yeah.
It's just how many stitches do you get, and that becomes your bragging rights, right? Because like Ole Anderson that time, that woman whoever cut Ole Anderson cut him from like asshole to appetite, and he had like 80 stitches or something. Oh yeah, well it's one time I was in Jackson and I had 175 stitches worth.
When you tell these stories, it's the honest to God's truth. But I mean, it's like, how do you? It's like, but like you said, there's no video camera, no cameras, no pictures to prove it. But I have a scar to prove I got stabbed.
Jeff, I gotta ask you. We're at a point in Continental right now, and since we're moving there, we're at a point right now where we've covered 3-4 weeks of Continental, and there's a funny clip that I think Gene has. I hope Gene has that.
I do.
Is what it kind of tickled us in the last show, and I hope Gene's going to play it to let you refresh your memory. But you start messing with your mask to a level that is something. Let's see if we can jog this memory.
The stud stable tries to remove your mask, and I got a feeling they broke one of the straps or something in the process. But let's pull this up here. We can watch and talk here. So there's Ron. He's hit you from behind. And he's working on that mask, trying to get it off.
There's Jody.
Mike Jackson down there doing something.
Mike Jackson. Uh-oh.
Okay. Now you've gone under the ring right here. What are you doing there?
I'm trying to hide my face.
You do have that other mask on that you described earlier.
Yeah. Oh, here comes Bullet.
Yep, he just threw your mask back at you. So you reached and picked it up, and now you're trying to put it on.
Eddie, I can't put it
quite right.
Yeah, I think he broke the strap that night, if I remember. Yeah, because he was pretty rough on it.
So they're putting the boots to Bob, and you're still outside the ring trying to get this damn mask on.
Stupid mask on. That thing was a pain in the butt.
All right, so they're giving Bob the business. Here you come. Now, see, you're holding the mask. What's
you're
going
fighting
on
by
right
one
here,
hand.
Jeff?
I had to. Yeah, it was gonna come off.
We felt so bad for you watching this.
Are you in there yelling at them? Hey guys, my mask is
yeah, you broke
off.
my damn mask.
You owe me a bath, Ron.
Oh my God. That is and then you're going to do, you go and you do an interview with Gordon, and it's like you keep Bob's trying to get your mask on. Did this happen a lot, or was this the only time this happened to you?
One other time with Bill Watts, we was in the Superdome, and my mask came off like that.
Wow.
But thank God I always had another mask with me in the dressing room. Thank God, right? It was like,
right.
You could tell it's broke.
And you knew the mask was going to come off here, right? Back in the back. They said the mask's going to come off. Get yourself under the apron so they can't see you. But you didn't know they were going to break your little plastic gimmick.
I had no idea they was going to break it.
So what do you do? Like, I mean, I guess just what you did. You improvised and went through, and here's this crazy road warrior, mean as hell snake gimmick, and here you are up here. Let me get this damn thing. I need a seamstress.
Yeah, it's hard to put your gimmick back together when it's broke,
right?
Because you can't take it off and look at it,
Yeah, for real. That's what was wild about that, because the show wasn't live. but they held the camera on Bob trying to help you fix your mask for an uncomfortably long time. It's like, come on, man, get the camera off the monster. You guys are killing him here. What are you doing? And Gordon's trying to cover for you.
Wow, that brought back some good memories. That was funny.
Yeah. And go ahead, Gene. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask, since I mentioned his name right there, it clicked in my head. So, you know, you were in Memphis, you got to be around the great Lance Russell, and then you're in Continental, Gordon Soley, two of the all-time greats. I mean, two of the four on most anybody's announcer Hall of Fame. How could you compare the two? And Jim Ross, yeah. So you really hit everybody there.
Yes.
How would you compare those three? Who was stronger in one aspect than the other? I know you didn't have to worry about this as Humongous, but I know like Lance famously could guide guys through. Like you could see deer in the headlights a lot of times for younger guys because this is live TV. Most people showed up in Memphis, they hadn't done live TV, they've done tape stuff, and you see that look. And Lance would. And your Monday night, you had told me you're going to get down there and you're going to do this, right? And then they're like back on track. Yeah, that's right, Lance. I'm going to do this. Just tell me a little bit about the role announcers play in wrestling, man.
You know, the beauty about that with Lance, I wasn't Humongous when I first started. I was Jeff Van Camp, the football player. And like you said, I was green. I'd never been on TV before. And I'm going to give you a little history about myself. I've had a lot of time to try to work on it. But when I was a young man, I used to have a really bad stuttering problem. And sometimes I have an issue with words and I have to rethink of a word because I can't say a word. Does that make sense?
I don't give a damn if Lord Humongous has a damn walking problem. I'm not saying shit about it because it's huge.
Well, it was difficult as a young man because you get picked on a lot. Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't understand that about me. And then one year when I was growing up, I grew 7 inches in 1 year. I went from like 5'5" to 6'2", and I started working out with Ron Wiglum, and people just kind of left me alone after that. When I was a senior in high school, 6'5", 275 pounds. That's how I played college football, and I went into blew over 300 pounds playing college.
How was it working with those announcers, though? Gordon Soley and Lance Russell.
Lance Russell was fantastic because he, like you said, he helped guided me through asking me questions like you guys are about how I got into wrestling, playing football for University of Louisville. And then when I went to as Humongous with Gordon Soley and Jim Ross, I was lucky. I didn't have anybody. I had like Sir Oliver Humperdinck and all those guys who actually talked for me. And I talked with my hands and my eyes. So Lance is probably the best because he drew the information out of me. I liked him a lot.
They took you at that point from Continental. So summer of '85, a lot of things kind of happened for you. You get into Continental, you have this little run with Bullet Bob, and then do they just give you your notice and say time for you to go, or did Watts call and say, hey, we got a spot for you?
No, Crockett Promotions and Bill Watts had contacted me, and I got with Ron out of respect for him, and told him that I was going to go with Bill Watts' territory in 1st of August. And he, and at the time I had the Continental belt, so I had to make sure I give that up to the Flame, Jody Armstrong.
I'm going to kick in a lead in for you because this is going to lead Gene into some stuff. And obviously, Gene and I don't sit down and rehearse a podcast and what we're going to ask and not going to ask. We just kind of have a general idea where we're going, but I want to feed him to get you in. But I was. Are we moving away from
Continental?
No, not at all.
I have one more simple question.
No, not at all.
Continental before we get away from it. Okay.
Not at all. And that is how do they let you know that you're going to be finishing up in Continental? We're not yet done. We're not there to Mid-South yet, but how do you know when it's time to finish up?
It's just something that it's time to be aware of your surroundings, and it's time to grow. And everybody who, like the bigger guys that are around you, like Ron and Bob, and say, Jeff, it's time for you to move on. You're getting too big. So it's time to move on and get to do bigger and better things and learn from a different territory.
Does that translate to real world? And the only reason I say that is because to me, I've never understood how football coaches do it, but I guess wrestling's the same way, where it's like it's not a big deal being let go or being told your run is over. It's not like you're being terminated from a job, even though you are, but it's just expected in this business versus like the civilian world, right?
Yes, it is. It was different, but you expect it. But like you said, you're moving on. You're doing the same job, but you're just moving on to bigger and better things, to a bigger territory. Like Mid-South was huge over Continental.
Right.
And that's the only thing I miss about it. Like WWE, Memphis was huge, and WWE, with Dick the Bruiser was about the same size territory. Then I went to, Southeastern, which was bigger. I think it was bigger, more territory than Mid-South. You're talking, you had to get on a plane to fly to some of these places. You couldn't drive it was amazing. You went to all the state of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Mississippi, and it was all over the place. Louisiana.
And when you're a guy that's getting over like you are and you're drawing money, it's not like you're going to be out on your butt. They've got you a place to land. Like when they tell you you're wrapping up, oh yeah, and we've talked to Watts, we've talked to whoever, you kind of got your pick of where you want to go, right? It wasn't just like, well, good luck, man. You're in 2 weeks, you're done, and hope you find a job type thing, right?
No, not one bit. Exactly. You're stepping in one pair of boots to another territory. It was amazing. And honestly, Bill Watts treated me pretty good when I first went over there,
I think that's part. I mean, I understand there's not territories and all that, but I think that's one part of the wrestling business where things kind of went haywire. Like when people started having contracts, like you said, you have your run in a place like Continental, and they go, hey, it's time. And then you would go somewhere else and you just start over there. Cause like now guys have a 5 or 6 year contract. You can't win forever, but we still have you under contract. So now we got to start beating you. And now you start falling down the card because you can't stay at the top of the card forever. Right. I think that's a flaw in the system almost. Is like,
I would say so. Yes. I didn't have a contract.
No way around it.
I never at one time signed a contract. That's just something they didn't have back then.
Right. Like probably about 2 years after you got out of the business.
Yeah, 87, 88, I think. Because I got out in January of 86.
Gene, you said you had another Continental question before we wrap up.
Okay. This is a trivial question right here, but this is the kind of little kid I was. This is the kind of thing I noticed and I thought was cool about Lord Humongous. Everyone else would win a title and they would strap it around their waist and they would wear it to the ring. Lord Humongous wore his title around with a chain around his neck, which as a kid, I thought that was freaking awesome. Was that a choice? Was that something somebody suggested, or you just thought it was cool, or would it just not fit around your outfit? What was the deal?
I didn't know. It fit, but I didn't want to be like everybody else. I wanted to do something different. I said, nobody ever had a chain and wrapped that chain around their neck and wore it that way to the ring. I said, that's what I'm going to do. So that was my way of carrying the belt. Instead of the normal way everybody else did it, I wore it around my neck.
That was cool. Like me and my buddies, like we made homemade belts and we wrestled in our backyard. And at Halloween, I managed to find a hockey mask, and I was Lord Humongous, and you best believe I got a chain, and I was wearing I was coming through the gate of the backyard with my belt on a chain because that's what Lord Humongous did. And you best believe War Machine was blasted, and my neighbors were not happy.
I'd love to see a picture of that.
I wish I had one. I would so send it to you.
Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to go to Bill Watts territory?
Let's do it, man.
Hey, man, there's a detailed Mid-South history piece that talks about the summer of '85 when Dick Murdoch was feuding with Sir Oliver Humperdinck's camp. Humperdinck swerved Murdoch on TV and brought out Lord Humongous as a surprise opponent with War Machine by Kiss blaring in the Irish McNeil Boys Club. That's the match where Humongous destroyed and bloodied Dick Murdoch, and it's described as the moment that Jeff was made into a star in the Mid-South, leading into the August of '85 Superdome show under Bill Watts. Jeff, talk about that.
I was Dick Murdoch put me over so much. And I understand he made a contact with somebody else who knew who I was, and he said he wanted to put me over. And he got with Bill Watts and said, I'm going to put this young man over. And let me he was to me, everybody, called him whatever you wanted to say, but he was super, super cool to me. And what he did for me, I'll never forget. And God rest his soul.
What was it like? So you've talked about Watts as you're going from night to day now because you were in your home every night. You're back in Pensacola, and now you're going on that big ass long 6-week bicycle tape loop. How in the world are you just thinking, what in the hell have I gotten into? Or did Williams and Jake Roberts and Steve Williams take you under their wing?
No, Jake didn't at the time because he was a baby face. Steve and I was heels, and so we traveled together. But like you said, we had most of the time I had no idea what city I was in, what hotel. We had people picking us up at the airport, whatever, driving us to and from the gym. As soon as we got there, I always liked to make sure I went to the gym. Steve did too. And we went, they always picked us up, took us to the gym, took us to the airport, took us to get something to eat, took us to the ring, took us back to the airport or back to the hotel. And half the time I had no clue what city I was in. Right. That's how much you traveled.
And thank God you didn't have to talk because you didn't have to keep up those promos then. He's talking about that bicycle. You do a day full of promos and you got to keep, all right, this town, we're in the Falls Count Anywhere or whatever, Texas Death Match or whatever. But in this town, it's week 3 and we're just having the regular match. And I know Cornette had to keep a notebook, he says.
Oh yeah.
Keep track of where they were at because that's a lot to keep up with, man.
Houston, and we was at remember Gillies? Oh, we wrestled down at Gillies all the time. Dallas, Fort Worth, oh my gosh. And then we Shreveport, did TV, Jackson, Mississippi, Vicksburg. Then we'd shoot, what would we do? We did me and Ron West. Remember Ron West, the referee? He and I traveled together a few times. We would drive to New Orleans together. I would park my car, or he would park his car, and then we would get on a plane and we would fly to Houston, Oklahoma, Tulsa, or whatever, Little Rock. And then, like a week later, at the time, my wife would pick us back up in Houston.
How old are you at this point, Jeff?
I was young, 22. I would say 22, 23 years old. So I was young enough and dumb enough to it didn't bother me. But nowadays, I don't see how guys are doing it as much as they're traveling nowadays.
Did you enjoy working with Bill Watts? You hear a lot of stories about Bill, but did you enjoy it? Did you have a good experience?
I had a good time with Bill. Only time that kind of brings to mind was when Bill Watts wanted to pair John Nord and I up together, and we were traveling together to Shreveport to do TV. And John was he was difficult. He was trying to tell me goodbye, but I don't think he really understood how to say goodbye. And I called him and said, John, are you trying to tell me something? What's going on? Because Bill and I, they're gonna pair us up together as the next Road Warriors. And he said he was having problems or something, and he didn't make TV. He left and hopped on a plane and flew. His wife was, I think at the time, if I made me mistaken, worked for Southwest Airlines or something. I can't remember, but he never showed up. And Bill Watts kind of, since we were traveling together, he blamed me for John leaving the territory at the last minute. And I had no clue. He blamed me for his actions. And I don't think he ever recovered from that. Why, I don't know. But then when I left the territory, Bill was famous for holding people's checks back.
Yeah.
So when I left that territory, he still owed me about 2 weeks of back pay.
Did you ever get it?
I've never received it.
Huh. Oh. I wonder what that is with interest.
Yes, in 1985, 40 years, right?
Good grief. Yeah. Wow. At what point, so you get in 83 and just, hey, get in a ring and try this wrestling. You're a wrestler, and boom, you're off to the races now. At what point in this ride did you ever sit back, maybe in a hotel one night or you're on the road and go, what the hell have I got myself? What is this? What have I got myself into? These people are crazy.
It's amazing. You're absolutely right. There's several times that it's a reality check. You kind of pinch yourself, say, what is this? Is this really me? Because, I was at the time, fame and fortune, I was making great money at the Superdome in the 85. There's a handful of people that Bill Watts picked. we worked at the Superdome, and then they didn't even have time to change. I put on a pair of sweats, and they took us as quickly as we could to the New Orleans airport, hopped on Bill Watts' private jet, and flew from New Orleans to Shreveport and did TV and another booking that night.
Wow.
It was me. It was Butch Reed, Jake the Snake, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I want to say Junkyard Dog. It was all the big names in Mid-South at that time was on his plane.
Do you have any regrets of choosing Watts over Crockett with hindsight being 2020?
No, I don't have any regrets. The only thing I regret, because Arn was a really good friend of mine, and I guess Ric Flair was in Charlotte, and Arn was really pressuring me to go to Charlotte as well. So I was really, really close to going to Charlotte with Arn. And hindsight's 2020. I mean, look what I did. I mean, I met a lot of great guys. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake the Snake, who and I are still friends. We talk to all the time. We go fishing together, and everybody I met in this business treated me with respect, and I have the utmost respect for everybody that I've met and worked with. And there's sometimes I wish like Jake was always told me, he said, Jeff, if you just stayed in the business a couple more years, they would have paired you up with the Hulk and had a run with it. And you would have been in the Hall of Fame of WWF and everything. So I sometimes I miss it, but I'm very humbled by a lot of the fans who remember who Humongous was and is.
Real quick, you mentioned, being there in Mid-South, you mentioned the name, and I always like to ask people this because I had a conversation with Lynn Denton about this one time, and he said people just don't understand. If you weren't there, you can watch tapes and you can hear about it, but he's like, you just don't understand it. He said, if you didn't stand across the ring from him, just how over the Junkyard Dog was in that territory, especially New Orleans.
New Orleans, yes, without a doubt. He was most definitely over. Butch Reed was over. Unbelievable. I mean, just and super great guys. I worked with Butch a few times, and it was just it's a remarkable experience I'll never forget.
So moving in at that point, then you're at the end of your career, Mid-South, and your wife says, "Hey, we need to."
Let's start a family. Yeah, let's start a family.
Talk about that. How'd that work? Because you're gonna have to tell Watts, I gotta go.
Yeah, I told him. I said, my time's up. I want to start a family, and I can't do it because we was working 7 days a week, twice on Saturdays and Sundays. The only time he got off at all was 10 days before Christmas. Usually about 8 days. So my wife at the time, I got a plane ticket. We flew to Orlando because my mom and dad was living in Orlando. We had Christmas with them in '85, and I came back, and then I did another about 2 more weeks of run up through 1st of January through Oklahoma to Tulsa. Then I decided, you know what, I really wanted to start a family and go back to my roots. I got a degree in criminal justice, and I said, well, let me just be a police officer in Pensacola, Florida. That's where I wanted to stay.
This is a question that I have because you guys who have worked in the business, I've never worked in the business. I don't know anything about it, but Dean does, and you do, and you guys understand all of it. You go to the police academy, you go through all that, but you had told me that you left the wrestling business and you needed to make some money. And so you went to work as a land surveyor.
That is correct. For Brantley, no, it was Basketball Donovan Engineers.
And I had a question, and that was, having spent the last 3 years basically full-time in the wrestling business, how hard was it to transition to the civilian world and not use the wrestling terms that you've been using with the boys for so long?
I'm going to tell you, it was hard. Extremely, very hard. There was a lot of times I just wanted to get up and run away. I don't know what kept me back. I don't know what kept me sane, but it was extremely hard on me. And, if it wasn't for my faith in God, I wouldn't have done it. I don't know what I would have done.
So you literally did. So did it depress you to not be in the business? And now you have to work, you have to do a regular job. Was it hard?
Oh my gosh, it's very hard going from making $3,000-$4,000 a night to make a minimum wage.
Yeah.
That was tough. It was very tough because everything I wanted in wrestling, if I wanted something, I'd just go get it.
And you said you became a police officer. Did you find that the wrestling business helped in your law enforcement career? Because there's a term that people use, don't work a worker. So were you able to look at somebody, maybe you've pulled them over on the side of the road or you're doing your investigation and you go, don't sit here and try to work me, pal. I've worked 18,000 people at a college. Yeah. Don't try to work me.
Well, believe it or not, when I was getting hired with the Pensacola Police Department, of course, it got leaked out that I was Lord Humongous. And, when I got hired, so all the citizens of Pensacola knew that Humongous was now a police officer. And I never, ever had any problem. Never.
And
they turned my siren into War Machine when I pulled up. And
all of a sudden, those drums kicked in, and it was just game on. But you know what? That leads me to a pretty good question. Would people try to use that with you? Like, oh, come on, man! I was a huge fan. I loved your work. I loved Humongous.
Sometimes, I left the Pensacola Police Department and went to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. To tell you a quick story, one night, and this young man was driving a Firebird or Trans Am or whatever. He ran a red light, and I pulled him over. Now, this guy was a big boy himself. He played football for Florida State University. And I pulled him over, and he goes, "Oh, my God, I'm getting pulled over by Humongous." And he goes, "Oh, my God, that's so cool, man. I got an actual ticket from Humongous."
I'm not going to pay this shit. I'm just going to frame it. Right.
Well, it's amazing. After he got done playing college ball at FSU, he became a police officer with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
And now he's a big time attorney in Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida named Dennis Green. So look him up, Dennis Green.
Dennis is a friend of mine, actually. So for a shoot, I'm in the legal field. And so I know Dennis. I've seen Dennis in trial a couple times. Tell
him I said, hey, and tell him. And let me tell you a little story about Dennis. Dennis wanted to get in the wrestling business. So one night we all decided we went to Selma, Alabama with Scott Armstrong to wrestle. And there was people coming out of the woodwork. And Dennis, he didn't know what kind of gimmick it was. So I said, put on this all black outfit, black shirt, and he'll be the street brawler. Well, under the lights in the ring, it made him look like Barney.
Like Purple the dinosaur?
Yeah. So everybody in the ring said, I'm the street brawler. And everybody's saying, no, you're Barney. So when you see Dennis, make sure, hey, Dennis, I understand there's a story about you being called Barney.
That's deep, brother.
I do want to go into one thing because I think this is more important than the wrestling business, and this is more important than anything we do. And that is, tell me a little bit about your achievement of drafting and passing the Florida Crime Stoppers Act. That was you.
Yes, I was. My buddy Jim DeFago was president. I was vice president, and at the time, back in the late '90s, it was very hard to get people to donate for Crime Watch type programs. So we came up with an idea that said everybody who gets arrested in the state of Florida would have to pay $20 to the local Crime Stoppers program. Now, who's going to collect that fee? Well, we decided the clerk of the courts in each county would collect the fee and charge $3. So $17 of that would go to a trust fund overseen by the Attorney General's office of the state of Florida. Now, once we got that passed to legislation, to the Senate and legislation, the governor at the time had to sign it into law, and that was Jeb Bush. And we did a lot of politicking, but he signed it into law in 1998, and it's still law today. Florida statute 16.66668 or something. I can't remember, but anyway, anybody who gets arrested in the state of Florida has to pay $20 to the local Crime Stoppers program. Now, I'm sorry.
What a great gimmick! I mean, because then it doesn't cost the court anything to collect the money. They make $3 on it. You get 17. What a deal!
And the state of Florida, all their arrests made, and now you do the math. I was the state president after this bill became law with the Jeb Bush. We was making between $5 and $6 million a year based on this budget.
What?
Wow.
$5 to $6 million a year. Now the state, the AG's office would collect that funds, and then it would be distributed through 67 counties of the state of Florida. So what we did was I had to oversee the funding. Every county who had a Crime Stoppers program would have to fill out trust fund money application, and then they would obtain the monies from the AG's office to get those funds that were collected by the clerk.
And you ended up going on to do Wanted Fugitives, which was a TV show where you helped catch over 4,000 criminals with this TV show.
Well, actually, it was over 10,000, and I made over 10,000 wanted fugitive, apprehending fugitives, solving unsolved crimes, murders, rapes, you name it. And I became Officer of the Year of the state of Florida in 2004.
I want to get pulled over by Humongous, Gene. So I'm going to come to Alabama, and I'm going to go down through Florida via Dallas. I'm going to go down through Florida and see if I can go through there and get Humongous to pull me over.
Dude, that's amazing. Like, you said earlier, I know you said sometimes you think, oh man, what if I'd have stuck around? I might have had to run with Hogan or something. But
right,
man, that's far more important. Like, it's like that's God's hand steering you in the right direction, man, that you were able to go off and do those important things. And I've always respected the fact, since I've heard your story, years ago, that you called your shot and was like, hey, I did my thing. I'm going to go start a family. And you walked away. Cause man, there's a guy still out there chasing that dragon today, man, was doing it when you were doing it. They can't let it go. They can't get it out of their system. So I've always respected the fact that you had your wrestling career, and then when it was time to go, you went and you've done all these great things. And I'm just learning this last part right now. So kudos, man. That's tremendous.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been very lucky in my life. God's been blessed with me, and I've been blessed with him. And I got a great wife now, and I have 6 grandkids.
Oh, wow.
I was just about to ask you about being a grandfather. I'm sure I'm a grandfather, and it's very fulfilling to me. Let me ask you. You got remarried and all that. How are you physically now? How is your health, Jeff? You look great. Are you still able to maintain a little bit, or how's that going?
Well, I do the best I can. I'm going to let you, I had to physically retire medically from law enforcement. I was working August 8th, 2018. I was on A1A at Woolbright, and my partner, there was only 2 of us working at nighttime in a kind of little town called Ocean Ridge. And he was pulling somebody over. Somebody was going southbound in the northbound lane on A1A. We thought the guy was DUI.
Sure.
So at the intersection of Woolbright and A1A, he pulls over abruptly and stops in the middle of the street. Now I'm about 20 yards behind him. I'm pulled in at the tactical position, and my partner had to swing to the right from hitting him. Well, I'm thinking he's DUI. He's facing south in the northbound lane. I take my seatbelt off. I'm getting out of my car. And next thing you know, he puts the car in reverse and hits me head on, tries to kill me.
Oh, no.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So I 12 surgeries later, I had to physically give up being a law enforcement officer.
So you live in Broward County. What do you do for fun now? What are your hobbies, Jeff? What do you like to do?
Yeah, honestly, I have my, I try to work out as much as I can. I got me a boat. I try to go fishing. I walk I have a German Shepherd named Lady. She's a 110-pound German Shepherd. I love walking her. She's a beautiful girl. And just spend time with my family and try to spend as much time as I can with my grandkids.
I'm going to let Gene take us out of here, but I want to say, Jeff, it has been a pleasure to talk to you. I enjoyed talking to you last week. It's been a pleasure to talk to you on here. And I always try to look at the time for Gene to kind of keep where we are in time. And we could go on asking you 100 more questions, but you have been so generous with your time and been so kind to us. And thank you so much. Because a lot of people in the business, they're a little bitter. Maybe it didn't turn out. They didn't get to call their shots like you did. And that's understandable. I understand why they're bitter. But to speak to somebody like you, who you don't have a bad word to say about anybody, and nobody has a bad word to say about you.
Well,
And
that's an honor.
So thank you very much for coming on with us, Jeff. This has been fabulous and tremendous. And from somebody like me, that's just a mark, dude, I love it. And I think it's great. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless you guys.
One last wrestling question before we go, Jeff. So it can be, it don't even have to be something that actually got taped, but if you had to pick one thing from the very beginning of your wrestling career to the last time you stepped through the ropes that was going to stand the test of time, and this is the one thing that you could show people to tell them about your time in wrestling, what match or moment would that be?
Probably the time with me and Jake in Houston with the cage match.
Yes.
That's a hell of a match.
That is. And boy, I would love to just sit in the back of the boat and hang out when you and Jake are out fishing. That's got to be a good time, right?
Yeah, I really enjoy my time. He's a funny guy. He's a comedian, and he's a card.
He sure is. Well, before we go, one last time, Jeff, remind us about GrappleCon.
GrappleCon, the weekend of April 10th and 11th at the Ramada Inn. Captain's Corner with Nick will be there. All the great wrestlers, Jerry Lawler, Austin Otto, myself, a lot of great guys. Dutch Mantel is going to be there. I think, oh gosh, there's so many guys. I can't remember all the names right now, but it's amazing. I'm so blessed.
Well, man, thank you so much for doing this. I hope to catch you at one of these conventions sometime so I can come up and shake your hand and tell you in person what a fan I am. But man, we appreciate this time that you gave us tonight. What great stories. And a lot of fun.
I never thought as a 10-year-old kid that, if somebody would have told me, hey, when you're 52 years old, you're going to get to talk to that guy right there, Lord Humongous, you're going to have a conversation with him, I'd be like, what?
Yeah. When I was in my backyard with a belt hanging around my neck with a chain, I never thought I'd get to talk to the guy that inspired it. So I'll just talk to my mom. She may have some around there around the house. She's got a lot of old pictures. If I find one, I'll get it to you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Bye.
All right. What a great interview, man. Jeff Van Camp, just an awesome guy. He lives up to everything we've heard about him. And what more is there to say, Rob?
I got to talk to him last week on the phone, and I called him, and he was just so very gracious. And when you start talking to him, his memory is really good. He remembers everything, and he never had any of the normal problems we hear about in the business. And he had nothing to say about anyone that was negative. He was just so kind of a breath of fresh air to talk to. You know what I mean? He didn't have any axes to grind or anything like that. And I just feel like he is the consummate professional. And I'm sure that came from his I'm sure as a law enforcement officer, he was wonderful to deal with. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing this. This is, how lucky am I? How lucky are we, Gene, that people we saw as kids, we get to go back and talk to now. How cool is that? And especially somebody like that who kind of restores your faith in humanity to say, hey, you know what? Okay, these people can, do this, and these people can make a life for themselves after the business, because sometimes it's depressing to see your heroes.
It can be, but hey, if you're anywhere in the area and it's far enough out now, you can make plans to make a trip. Get to the GrappleCon. I mean, go meet Jeff. You've heard some of the names he's named: Dutch, the King. There's a ton. I've seen the listing. Austin Idol. I mean, it's a who's who of professional wrestling.
Memphis Monroe.
Great guy. And we got to get him on this convention circuit, man. We got to get him in this, because we can make a lot of great contacts at these things for future interviews. Who knows? Someday we might have retro wrestling live from the GrappleCon or something.
I am reaching out to Memphis Monroe right now. I'm trying to get him to come out of retirement and come on any one of the podcasts and just do an interview, because he's been around. He's seen it.
He's one of these guys. He's a little more bitter he's not Jeff. He's going to have some things to say that you're probably going to put on Patreon afterwards. That's just fair warning. That's what I hear. I don't know. BT interviewed him one time. I never talked to the guy. I thought he was a bit of a prick myself. But anyway, that's it for this episode of Retro Wrestling. Rob, thank you so much for setting in and getting this together and making it all happen. We've got some more fun interviews coming up. We won't spoil it, but man, there's some names in the pipeline that I'm excited to talk to. I know you're excited to talk to. And as people keep coming up on our screen here on Continental, if they're out there, we're going to find them and we're going to talk to them. And you're going to hear it right here on Retro Wrestling on the Retro Wrestling Archive.
Got a stack of VHS tapes, dusty old newsletters, tastic men in tiny capes, playing old video